The 1960s was a rough decade in American history, fraught with conflicts over issues from civil rights to the war in Vietnam. The Mexican-American Civil Rights Movement, one of the least studied social movements of the 1960s, had a broad cross-section of issues, from restoration of land grants to farm worker rights to enhanced education to voting and political rights.
The Chicano movement, or El Movimiento, was a component of multiple movements in which Latinos, including Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, Central Americans, and South Americans demanded not only equal opportunity, but also a respect for their culture. Historians have determined that these four best represent the movement: a Latino youth movement that fought against discrimination in schools, the farm workers movement, the movement for political empowerment, including mostly notably information of La Raza Unida Party, and the reclaim of land that the U.S. had taken from Mexico landholders in the 19th century in the Southwest. The youth movement fought for their civil rights. There were high dropout rates, crumbling schools, lack of Mexican-American teachers practically covers what schools looked like in the 1960s for Latinos. This is the reason why Mexican-American students stood up and demanded equal opportunities as the whites. To describe their cultural heritage, they began using the label Chicano, although it had a negative connotation to it. A Chicano community action group called the Brown Berets then formed and voiced their demands for making schools more relevant to people of color. The farm workers movement. During the 1960s, many Latinos were dealing with discrimination in their jobs too. Since most of them were brought to the U.S. as braceros, Hispanics were doing back-breaking work for little pay and few benefits. Cesar Chavez, an iconic figure that began the farm workers movement, believed that Latino farm workers had to unionize so that their strength would come from bargaining as a group. As a result, him and Dolores Huerta established the Union Farm Workers Organization Committee, the UFWOC, which guaranteed higher wages and other benefits long denied to farm workers. Although at first they were not recognized, a boycott of grapes that lasted for 3 weeks finally gave union workers what they were asking for. Cesar Chavez had a great impact during the Chicano movement. He was born in Arizona and employed nonviolent means like Martin Luther King and Gandhi to bring attention to the plight of farm workers, and formed both National Farm Workers Association, which later became United Farm Workers. As a labor leader, Chavez led marches, called for boycotts, and went on several hunger strikes. It is believed that Chavez's hunger strikes contributed to his death on April 23, 1993 in San Luis, Arizona.
Just like Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta has worked to improve social and economic conditions for farm workers and to fight discrimination. To further her cause, she created the Agricultural Worker Association, other known as AWA, in 1960, and co-founded what became the United Farm Works, other known as UFW. Huerta stepped down from the UFW in 1999, but she continues her work to improve the lives of workers, immigrants, and women.
The political empowerment. Latinos also organized politically during the 1960s in order to represent the Hispanic race. Considering how there were only 8 Hispanic Americans serving in the White House during this time period, the Mexican American Political Association, aka MAPA, and the League of United Latin American Citizens, also known as LULAC, were programs created to help elect Latino politicians and fight segregation along with discrimination. La Raza Unida, Mexican Americans United, became the most successful program for the political representation of Latinos. It succeeded to run Latinos candidates in 5 states and win races for mayor, as well as positions on school boards and city councils.
Latinos, like African Americans, fought violently and non-violently to get accepted into the U.S. Since they were considered a minority group, they were always being discriminated and treated unfairly. The Chicano movement helped Latinos gain more respect for their race and culture. Today, Latinos have to deal with the discrimination in schools and their jobs, but not as bad as before. Even though the group doesn't exist today, they are still in our hearts. They are still remembered by paintings and murals all around Latino communities.